Hello, hamjambo tena. My name is Mwaikwasi and this is the Mwaikwasi Mic, the biggest political show at the Kenyan coast and very soon in Africa and beyond. Watch the pace. In case you're yet to subscribe. This is the home of political conversations. In today's episode, there's been a rise of a lot of a term. Kila mahali unaenda unasikia accountability, vijana. So today we want to talk about the issue of accountability in public offices as far as budgeting and funds allocation is concerned. And in our studios today, I'm having a guru in that sector and also a youth leader. Karibu sana kiongozi.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Exactly. Can you introduce yourself so that the members of this platform can get to know you better and what you do so that we drive the conversation forward?
Yeah, thanks once more. My name is Hassan Mbangwe, Athman. I come from Changamwe, a youth leader, and of course also a youth leader in Mombasa. Currently, I work with the Office of the Senator as the County Oversight Coordinator, just to echo on what you've already mentioned, issues to do with accountability, and just to ensure that there's a prudent utilization of funds from the national government, and of course, even the little that we are collecting as OSR within Mombasa. So that's me. And thank you for having me today.
Karibu sana. You forgot to mention something. Amu utatuambia baadaye.
Hiyo utasema. Hiyo ni agenda kubwa. Naenda na mudi ile flow ambao umeiset.
Flow basi tutanzia hapo alafu tukishuka huku chini kwingine. You deal with matters accountability.
Yes.
Kwa sana. What could be the main cause of stalled projects and pending bills?
When you talk about pending bills, there's something we call vulnerabilities to corruption, because those are avenues where corruption activities occur. I think for me, maybe just to bring you up to speed, when I say corruption vulnerabilities, it's a terminology that we use in the oversight space. And basically it's because corruption is not just merely what we think is corruption, because normally our understanding of corruption ni the simplest, ile ya mtu kupewa hongo ama mtu overquote budget, and then now we quantify that alone to be corruption. In the space of oversight, or rather in the space of accountability and advocacy, there's so much that goes into accountability. There's so much, we say, the vulnerable spaces where the duty bearers utilize to embezzle funds, if you may. One, like you've said, there's the pending bills, which is a big issue even here in Mombasa. Up until when this regime was coming in, our pending bill was at 4.3 billion. It's good. Up to now, the governor has been able to take care of about 1.9 billion. Of course, that is what is written on paper. We don't know whether that's the reality. Apart from pending bills, we have issues to do with diversion of funds. And this is the biggest elephant in the room that I believe most people don't even know about. Diversion of funds. And apart from diversion of funds, we have what we call... also there's pending bills, there's the diversion of funds, and then now there's what we call absorption rates. When funds are not absorbed in a department, for example, those funds are diverted to another department, for example, or they are diverted to another service, which was not intended for initially. So the description of that service is best known to them, the duty bearers. And that's why I said those are some of the avenues where corruption takes place.
Exactly.
So in this space, once you get into this space, you learn so much. You live with regrets every day because you just look at how money is being squandered. You just look at the perspective that people have kule mashinani, and then how people now transition simple rights that are being quantified as favors from, the duty bearers. We are being done for projects that we deserve, but then we look at them as merely as favors. And I think this has set the tone even for our national politics. So it's a very broad, space field, but largely that is what we do in Mombasa with the office of the senator. We just look into what comes into Mombasa, how is it spent, how is it spread across the projects, and then what is left, and what are we collecting in terms of on-source revenue, and yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
So let's talk about diversion of funds.
Yes.
You have talked about funds being diverted for other purposes. I assume that that diversion of funds
Yeah.
is the one that makes the funds rahisi kuibiwa.
Yes,
if I may put
exactly.
it. Yeah.
Yes.
So how does this diversion of funds get?
So-
So see, I want to understand. Kwa
Yeah.
sababu ukisikia 1.9 bilioni imeibiwa
Imeibiwa
mahali,
mahali.
sasa watu wameenda kwa withdraw. Kuna vile
imekuwa
katafunua
diverted
hapa na
somewhere.
pale. Yeah, ndo zikapotea.
Yeah.
So how does that fund diversion ukaa kuhakikisha kwamba hao jamaa wameramba hii pesa?
Yeah, wameramba. So diversion of funds happens in a very simple way. Like I made mention issues of absorption rates. So I'm heading a department where I can only consume 100 million per year, but in my allocation I'm allocating 300 million, knowing I can only absorb 100 million. So what is left is 200 million. So that 200 million normally, because that department is not spending 200 million, let's take that fund and take it somewhere else. But now you realize it is very difficult to trace how these funds came from this department to this other department, and then now which department are you going to hold accountable? Because once those funds zimetoka department A zimeenda department B, haziendi department B kukaa, they are going to be utilized in that department B. But you cannot go and ask for accountability from the department B, because that was not their budget. They will show you what their budget was. When you go back to department A, they will tell you we spent 100 million, but we were left with 200 million. So that 200 million hautaonyeshwa iko wapi. Lakini that 200 million, at the end of the year, if you look at the financial statement, you'll be told everything was utilized. And that is where now we also have these other biggest elephant in the room. This is something we call supplementary budgets.
Yeah.
It has never made its way to the general public. Do you know why? Have you ever asked yourself why we don't have a chance to interact with the supplementary budget?
No.
Because a lot of corruption happens there now. And even if you look at the one that was appropriated recently in Mombasa, compared to the annual budget vis-a-vis the supplementary budget, the figures will tell you what really then happens. And sometimes I know it happens because we're living in the political space, of course. Sometimes when a CEO of a county comes to a forum, for example, and the citizens demand a certain service that was not budgeted for initially, because it's politics, they want to please them, so they'll just say tutawajengea, in our context, tutawajengea ECD. So where will that money come from? Remember, it was not budgeted for.
I assume the 200 million that we have used for our case study.
Yes.
Is it the...
So generally that is what happens. But then what then will proceed is the next financial year, after that project is commissioned with the 200 million, which we will not know how much was used for the commissioning, or rather what we call the groundbreaking, whatever. From there, the next financial year, another budget will be made for the completion of that project that was launched. So this is a space where I normally tell young people that I interact with, don't be in a hurry to understand the budget making process, and don't be in a hurry to hold leaders to accountable unless you have concrete information. That is where we go wrong every day. We just feed on very cheap and little propaganda, and then now we go and ambush these leaders and say, we unakula pesa zetu nini. But when they ask you to demonstrate or to give evidence of how wanakula pesa, you don't have the evidence. But for people like us, we interact with these things every day, so we know. I can really sit down with you and tell you this is how you are squandering money.
Exactly. So I want to understand this thing better.
Yes.
What are the loopholes because we have talked about that diversion.
Yeah.
There was also a rumor, maybe I can tell you, so that when you talk about the loopholes, you can also cover it.
Yeah.
Kuna rumor ilikuwa ikisema kwamba vile salaries za watu account zinachelewa, hizi pesa huwa zijachelewa. Hizi pesa hawa jamaa huwa wako nazo, alafu what they do, they put it in fixed accounts. Wakishaka kwa fixed account, ile pesa simi accrue interest. Alafu watatoa, watalipa. Kumbuka hawajagusa ile pesa yenye ilikuwa imetengwa. Alafu ile interest majama wanaramba. It's also that the case someone easy the stories are chini
if that money that is if the interest is being used to render more services to the residents, then I don't see any problem with that.
They take the money.
They take the money for their own use, because now they'll not be queried on that. I don't know much about that. I've only seen what is happening currently in Mombasa is that they have a kind of an overdraft agreement with banks such that salaries are not delayed as it was initially. And of course, normally they say it's because of the exchequer delays. Of course, for salaries, we know one thing I normally say we are doing wrong. Those of us who are in the accountability space, we only look at the money that is being spent on projects, which is just 30% on development. We forget about the huge chunk of the budget, which is 70%, that goes into personnel emoluments or just the recurrent expenditure. We don't look into that 70%. We only look at the 30% and say kuna project Mwakirunge hejamalizika, pesa yake imeenda wapi. That is just 30%, for crying out loud. There's a lot of money, like you're saying, there's a lot of money that revolves in a circulate hapa kwa recurrent expenditure, the recurrent budget. There was a time we used to hear about the ghost workers story. Now, I know you know about the ghost workers. There are also many here in Mombasa. There was a time the county government was asked to produce their human resource audit that they did in 2023. The audit indicated county has this number of staffs, but out of 5,000, for example, only 3,000 are within the system. Their financial system that now shows who is an employee of the county government of Mombasa, which level of job group, and where is he working and how much is he earning. Then there is these other almost 2,000 who are not in the system, but they are being paid. They are being paid through the manual payroll system, which is illegal at the moment. So you see, there is a lot of money now that is going into people's pockets that we don't know whom, because if you ask, you cannot literally go to the county governor and ask him to tell you to single out every employee wake wa county ambao amewaajiri, akwambie kwamba pale tuko na huyu na huyu na huyu. Some of them are just existing wako tu. There was a time I had a story that there's a guy who is in the US. That's a story anyways. I cannot substantiate, just a disclaimer, that this guy was employed by the county government of Mombasa, but then he made his way out of the country. So when he went there, he was still demanding to be paid. His salary delayed for 2 months. So he was asking to be paid because he is part of the county government records as an employee. But now remember, he is in the US, but he's demanding to be paid. So you see that those are some of the funny scenarios we are having. But, I would dare you to start looking into it. You'll make a lot of enemies. And for those of us who are still just, upcoming, utategwa mapema na we don't have anywhere to land. So it's an interesting, topic, and it's a delicate topic, of course, especially for us who are now heading into an electioneering period. Saizi ukimpaka mtu tope na yeye pia atakutafutia tope lako akupake. So but the truth has to be said in whatever way, whether we have to use humor, whether we'll just be tukue tu very open, tuambie watu ukweli, but at the end of the day we deserve the truth and we deserve services, we deserve to be to have equitable share. I'm glad the county assembly came up with an act that now allows each ward to be allocated a certain amount. I believe we are getting into the right direction as far as ensuring there is prudent use of our funds. And I'm also looking forward, because MCAs have really championed for these funds to be brought to them. I'm really hoping that they will not do otherwise. And I'm also very saddened by what has been happening not in Mombasa alone, nationally. MCAs have been given budget to implement projects, but that is not in their job description. Yeah.
But you see what they say.
Mhm.
Like I had a conversation with an MCA.
Yeah.
What he told me is that the MPs control CDF.
Yeah.
Yet they do legislation, oversight, just basically the same roles as them.
Yeah.
Why can they also have a fund that they can control?
But
That was
now-
the argument.
But now you see now the MPs in their defense, they are not controlling the CDF. They will tell you the CDF is being controlled by the commission.
Mm.
The CDF has its own
Manager.
office. The only thing that is happening is the office has been anchored at the constituency office. The CDF fund has been anchored at the constituency office. And we know everything is influenced politically. Even the CDF made its way as a result of the political pressure. And it has gone through a public participation successfully because of the political goodwill from the top. The late Baba, may his soul rest in peace, talked about the CDF being scrapped off. But you saw the conflict that arose from that. And there was no goodwill from the first in command, of course. Everything that happens has to manufacture goodwill from somewhere. But if there's no goodwill, then trust you me, things will not go well. For the MCAs demanding to be given funds, it's not wrong. But now you see, we are then going to kill devolution, because now we are changing definition of these offices. We now want to create more. We now want to come up with different, office duties that were not enshrined in our constitution. Then that would only mean maybe we go for a referendum, so that we now align everything that everyone wants to be captured in the constitution. But again, is that sustainable? Is that really what we need to? Is that really what the ordinary citizen want? Because that is what the political class wants, not the citizens themselves.
Yeah, sure. I want to take you back a little bit.
Yes.
Pale katika loopholes, we have talked about projects.
Yeah.
Versus projects being misappropriated.
Yeah.
Let's say mnatenga sahi,
Mhm.
and then bado you do the same.
Yeah.
Also, you have touched about the issue of the manual payroll.
Yeah.
Maybe you can shed more light, because I want to understand this issue of ghost workers very well.
It's
Because
not.
are the ghost workers,
Yeah.
pengine are those, assuming I'm the one in power,
Yeah.
are the ghost workers my sycophants
Mhm.
who maybe I cannot employ them to an office, so they just hold a title?
Yeah.
Or are they people that take money on my behalf?
Yeah.
What's the whole issue about ghost workers?
I think there's no definition anywhere. There's no standard definition for a ghost worker. It's just merely how you've put it. That is just it, especially in the political space. Maybe in the corporate world, I would tell you this is an employee who is in the manual register or is in the payroll register, but he doesn't make his way to the office. For example, you have somebody who is supposed to take care of camera one. That person is being paid to handle camera one, but that person has never made his way to the studio. So then other staffs will be asking, mbona kwa report tunaona funds are being paid to person A for handling camera one, but that person has never made his way to the studio.
Yeah.
So that is merely what even happens in the political space. And you see, these are political rewardees. They are loyalists who, like you've put it, probably the spaces that exist or the vacancies that exist hawana zile qualifications. But if you don't absorb them, ni wao watakupiga vita. Tulikutetea ukaingia haukutupa kazi. So these people, that is what happens in the political space. And it's not only at the level of the counties, it's also in the national government. Because now if you become a friend of the president, You even saw there's an office that was created against what the constitution has provided, and there was a lot of pressure from the legal our learned friends saying this office is unconstitutional.
Yeah.
But you see now, apart from this office being unconstitutional, it was formally, or rather it was officially declared that it is existing. So there's the opposite is there are those other offices that have been created to virtually, such that they say huyu Mwaikwasi atakuwa ni senior admin assistant at the office of the governor. But he has no office. There's no office whatsoever. But what we see in the financial statement is that Mwaikwasi is being paid 200,000 every month.
Yeah.
And so merely the ghost workers, as a politician, you'd look at it that sio vibaya. But for those of us in the accountability space, then it means money is being embezzled. Because you see, at the end of the day, you cannot account for funds that are going to somebody who is not registered in the manual. I mean, in the payroll register officially. That means those funds will not be rendered for audits. So you even see what the controller of budget indicates, or rather what the office of the auditor general indicates. They just give a blanket report saying this amount of funds may have been paid through the manual register against the law, and these funds may have gone to ghost workers. Like I saw last time, we had in Mombasa, we had about 206 employees who are being paid outside the payroll system. I'm not picking up figures from anywhere.
Yeah.
I told you I interact with the budget documents.
Yeah.
So that is what the audit reports indicated, that there's 206 employees who are being paid outside the payroll system. So then you ask, where are these employees existing, and why should they be paid outside the payroll system? I have a friend who was onboarded by the county government. She is not being paid for the last 6 months. Do you know why? Because she's not been given her payroll number, which I think is the best practice. You have to wait until you are given a payroll number for you to start receiving salaries.
But
And
to cut you short, people
yes.
have been paid without payroll. The ones that you're saying manually.
It's because, for ghost workers, normally they're within the lowest job groups. So ni pesa kidogo sana ambayo people don't take a keen interest into. Unaona person X amelipwa 30,000, 25,000, and this person X wako kama 30 ama 200. Mtu akipiga cumulatively, it's not above maybe 2 million, or maybe it's less than a million. So anasema, that is just some pocket change somewhere. So people don't take a keen interest. And that's why I said there's a lot that is being embezzled, 70%, that we don't talk about. We never talk about the 70% that goes into the recurrent expenditure. Even those of us who look at the budget documents, when you look at the county fiscal strategy paper, normally there is an indication of, for example, Makadara iko na wafanyikazi wangapi, hao wafanyikazi wanalipwa kiasi gani ya pesa. So there are those that imeonyesha kabisa Department of Land iko na employees 20 ama 25. Kwa hawa 25, hawa ndio yani wako kwa the technical team. Hawa wengine ni clerks, wanafanya tu hizi normal clerical jobs. Hawa ni huyu ni receptionist. Then kuna wale wengine ambaye anakuambia mimi nafanya na Department of Land, lakini hayuko katika ile data, but they are being paid. They will tell you mimi nalipwa kila mwezi. So you will ask yourself, huyu mtu analipwa from what budget? But those are things that exist. I think it's the biggest, like I said, biggest elephant in the room, that to deal with it just requires intentional leadership. Leaders who really want to see that things are going the right direction. I don't know what really happens to us, the leaders, because we come up with very good manifestos, we come up with very good ideologies, we come up with very strict propositions as measures to curb corruption. But once we step foot in those offices, in kama tunaacha the principles we had, I really don't know what happens. I hope it doesn't happen to me once I get elected as a leader. I really hope and I pray. So because I believe if we have to go any further, if we really want I see people talking about corruption and I really pity people because we are the first people who are corrupt. Because one thing about corruption is not merely wewe kuwa in the process. Even the one who is tolerating corruption is corrupt because you are tolerating corruption. You remember tukiwa wadogo ulikuwa unaweza sneak out uende home, then you ask your sister please usiseme nimeenda. That's corruption. But
Hujaniona kabisa.
so so I trust you me, there's a lot
Okay.
I really would have wished tungekuwa na hizo budget documents so that I point to you where this happens. There are departments here in Mombasa for example ambao imewekwa programs zenye hatujawahi ziona zikifanyika, lakini those programs they reoccur in every budget, they feature in every financial year. Utaona sijui there's a budget to bring up a system sijui what, and you see those systems some of us cannot interrogate because you have to have your technical know-how kusema kwamba there was a budget to put up a system what nini na nini, you know those terminologies.
What are those systems? Is it just written systems or
no, there are a lot of IT staffs that they are saying we want to have like the one I saw, the county government has an intention of having a record system to a record system, and then you see another statement kule chini that also talks about the same thing that has been described in the budget line hapo to juu. So there's something about management record system, and then you come huku unaona tena wameweka sijui an office sijui what for the same record system, and then there's a replication to vitu zinatengezwa. Trust you me, usually when we were looking at the budget in the office and we were like, hey guys, wow, this is nice, like I would sote tutaka pesa bana. So mtu anasema kuna watu bana wala vizuri. But the last time we met with the governor, he's also doing a good job anyways. I'm not here to talk about him much, but there is one thing he said. They also have a threshold that they're supposed to meet with the COB so that the COB approves the budget to treasury. So they have a caveat, they have a target that they are supposed to meet in terms of their budget quantification. So if they want, for example, 14 billion from the national treasury, then they have to overquote in simple terms. So sometimes you see like we are struggling with the issue of the wage bill. The wage bill is another issue, and you see wage bills ndio hizo mambo za ghost workers zinaingia hapo, but zote ziko tu hapo. At the end of the day pia sisi tunataka kuajiriwa. Hata mimi nataka kuwa waziri inshallah. So na nikikuwa appointed saizi na governor, why not? So you see those are some of the tough situations pia the county managers have, because we are here demanding jobs, we are also here crying kwamba wage bill iko juu, but then how do we cap the wage bill? So you see they say the wage bill ikiwa juu pia ni vizuri kwao, because they are demonstrating the need for the funds being appropriated downwards. So then the controller of budget has to hana budi approve. Okay. That's why I said we don't really look into the 70%, but the 70% is actually what matters. The other things do not matter. Have you ever heard people crying kwamba hatuna development of this kind, like county government ama wanasiasa wakisema kwamba kwangu bana sina choo, kwangu bana sijui sina ECD? You've ever heard? No. But what they cry about is salaries. That is where the 70% comes from. Everyone talks about delayed salaries. Everyone talks about delayed salaries. If you see counties complaining kwamba exchequer disbursements have delayed, that money that comes from exchequer ni salary. Hiyo ni personnel emoluments and the recurrent budget. Because what we collect as on-source revenue goes into the capital projects, which is the development projects.
Okay. We have talked about the control of budget. I can say from my own view, you can feel free to correct me. I can say that the office of the control of budget is like a PR office.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just tell you
Mm-hmm.
what has been done wrong,
Yeah.
but they don't take the effort to
True.
ensure that hii makosa imefanyika, how do you solve this, or maybe prosecution. Kila mwezi tu just giving us good flower reports,
Yeah.
but nothing occurs.
I
So,
agree with you.
Why is it so?
I agree with you because there's also one thing we've been talking about, those of us who are in the advocacy space. What the controller of budget and the and the office of the auditor general does is just to produce reports, and their reports normally are based on the financial statements or financial reports that they receive from the county governments. They don't take the liberty to come to ground kuja kuangalia kwamba kuna hawaingii mashinani kuangalia kwamba kuna hii project ambayo imekuwa indicated kwamba it's been stalled for 10 years, what is the status. So they don't come kwa ground kabisa kuinterrogate hizi projects kujua the status of implementation. That is why you see for us as the office of the senator, when I came in, or rather when we came in, because this is a program that was introduced 2 years ago, when we came in, we wanted to bridge the gap. We wanted to start going kwa projects mashinani, interrogate the situation. What is the situation? We just see those reports, but have we gone kwa ground kuangalia, kuassess, tukajua kwamba hizi ndio challenges? Because contractors also have a lot of challenges. A contractor was given a project, amefanya up to a certain level, certificates zake ameprocess, lakini payments zimechelewa. So yeye pia ana abandon sites. So those are some of the challenges that I think, like you are saying, the COB and the Office of the Auditor General our interrogate vizuri. And then another thing that contributes to that is we don't have a strong internal audit systems or audit control structures. I think one of the recommendations that have been seen every time in the COB report is the need to have an internal audit system. Yeah. So like you said, they are recommending, yes, but are they following up to ensure that these things, if this is the best practice, why don't you do a follow-up to ensure that it is in place? If we are saying pending bills in a hinder development, what is the COB doing to ensure that counties are not accumulating pending bills? I'm glad the county government of Mombasa adopted PCs, performance contracts, that we helped. I say we because I work with IRI, International Republican Institute. When we started a project on advocacy, on improving service delivery with IRI, when we were working with the county government, we requested IRI to support them to come up with PCs. And I'm glad there was a lot of goodwill from the county government of Mombasa. And right now, it's a year, they've been working with performance contracts. Performance contracts are good because you can be able to keep in check a department. Like I said, a department said they are able to absorb 200 million. So at the end of the year, they have only absorbed 100 million. So the PCs allow the executive to now query that department and ask, you said you are able to absorb 200. What happened? Why were you only able to absorb 100 million? And easy 100 million, where is it? So I think that is a good intention, and we only hope that the performance contracts are also made public for oversight. It should be an oversight tool. It should be an oversight tool so that pia our MCAs do not just say waziri fulani ako incompetent because hashiki simu zake. Wajua kuna wale watu wanaweka emotions. Ule waziri wa environment, ule bana hafai, he is very incompetent. Kwa sababu gani? Kila mara nikimpigia simu hashiki. So that is their definition of incompetence, because waziri hashiki simu. Nikimwalika harusi zetu haji. Nikimwalika matangazo nyumbani haji.
Chango haji.
Yes, but you see, with performance contracts will allow us to do an evidence-based oversight, not just propaganda. It's a very proactive way of looking at it when we are doing oversight.
Exactly. Yeah. Now, on the issues of accountability, for example, taking to the context of Mombasa, ukiangalia the senator and the governor happen to come from the same party, which is the ODM party. Alongside that, I also presume they are friends. So, in your reports, simnaweza pata mmetengeneza report, mzee akamwambia jamani hapa huyu mko anajua tuko naye chama moja, hebu poeni hapa kidogo.
It has never
the conflict of interest?
It
Does
has
come
never
along in
it
the
has never
accountability section?
happened. I think maybe it has never happened only in Mombasa, because we have a senator, and it's not because I work with his office. We have a senator who has understood his constitutional mandate. There is the urafiki part of it, the kujuana, the being in the same party, but then there is the work that the people of Mombasa have given to you. So our reports ni sisi tunaandika sisi wenyewe. The only thing senator does is to read that report, and then we make a statement for him to read in the assembly. He does nothing. He doesn't even know how we sit down and generate those reports. He only facilitates by ensuring that we have resources to go kwa ground, kwa assess. We have resources to do the drafting of those reports. In Mombasa, I think nationally, it's only Mombasa that produced an oversight report through this oversight function. And that report was read in the Senate Assembly. That report was done by us. I'm the one who presented that report to the county government of Mombasa. We did a launch, and the launch was done live for everyone to also know what is happening. We made that document accessible to the general public. We created a link, and we allowed people to download and read that document. We created simpler versions for people to understand mashinani. We did town hall meetings, 6 of them in every sub-counties of Mombasa, just for people to understand in simple terms what is this report indicating to us. And this was not just PR, because we did the tours, then we transitioned to do the reports, and then we launched the reports, and then we sent the report back to the community members. So the senator has understood his constitutional role. I believe he does what is required to do. And there was a time even those who are affiliated, or rather allied to the governor, thought that the pressure that the senator is bringing on board with the oversight report is so that he can make his way to the office of the governor as the next governor of Mombasa. But that is not the case. He's just doing his job. And I remember once we did that draft, we told him, let's go and see the governor before we launch this report. We wanted him to be the first person to consume that report. We went and sat down with the governor in Nyali, ile ofisi ya water kule Nyali, tukawa na round table. We read the report to him. Then we gave them 2 weeks to react to the report, because maybe, just maybe, tunaweza kuwa kuna vitu tulicapture, lakini maybe the county government is already doing something about it. So we wanted to give them an opportunity to report back and tell us, hapa mlisema hatujajenga hii, lakini kuna something we are doing on the pipeline. Just because of the goodwill that we are having, because at the end of the day ni kazi ambayo pia sisi tunafanya, na tunaifanya kwa ajili ya mwananchi wa Mombasa ama mwana Mombasa. So when we gave them the 2 weeks, we waited for another month. Trust you me, we didn't get feedback. But then we said, since sisi tumewapea, hawata tulaumu sisi waseme kwamba. So we had hizo mara wanasema we'll report sijui nini, bado tunatengeza feedback nini. So we told them sisi pia, for the interest of time, because this program iko na reporting aspect, lazima to report back to the commission. So we then proceeded to do our launch at Premium Inn, and we invited the county government of Mombasa. They were represented. The Waziri for Education was there. The Waziri for Trade was there. Most of the Waziris were there, and we invited the Office of the Auditor General. We invited the COB. They were there. The offices were represented. We also invited the county assembly as an oversight institution, because primarily that is their job. So we invited them, and this was not just an invitation. Like I said, I presented that report just for them to understand, break down what are some of the key issues, what are some of the key asks that we would have had as an office. And then we printed the booklets and gave each office to now go and go through and
go
then
through,
probably
yeah,
say
record,
yes, collectively now this is what we can do to take care of this. And you've seen a lot of projects that the governor is currently doing, like the level 4 facilities. Those are recommendations that came from our report, but they can't tell you, because they will be seen as though wanatupea sisi mileage. But trust you me, the office understands its mandate. We are seeing Kongowea being upgraded to a level 4. We are seeing Mikindani being upgraded to a level 4. If you read our report, you will see what we captured in our report. You've seen Coast General wametengeza pale their reception pale, the entrance, that
Yeah.
was captured in our report because we felt there was a lot of overcrowding pale. Those are some of the things we recommended in our report. So you see, we were somehow complementing the work that the county government is supposed to do. A lot of projects we've now seen goodwill. A lot of facilities had understaffing in terms of human resource capacity, but at the moment we are seeing some goodwill happening. We're even seeing level 2 facilities, the one in Bofu, the one in Mjambere, level 3, and then the other levels that are coming up. So this is as a result of the pressure that we mounted with our oversight report. So just to respond is there's no conflict of interest. There's a deeper understanding of what the Constitution has provided and what the people of Mombasa entrusted with the Senator of Mombasa.
Sure.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about, before we come to your personal ambitions,
Yes.
let me close with the Senate section.
Yes.
A lot of people in Mombasa,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure if you go through social media,
Yeah.
you just talk with people,
Yeah.
they'll tell you
Yeah.
that they don't know what the senator is doing. In fact, wanamlaumu sana, wanasema huyu bwana hakuna kitu anafanya.
Hakuna kitu anafanya.
So is it that he's not delivering, or is it that there's something that about his office maybe the local mwananchi cannot understand, which is the true position of the matter?
That's what I said initially. There is no understanding of the roles ya hizi ofisi. Even the MCAs, we demand a lot from the MCAs, and yet it's not within their mandate, and that's why they have that pressure ya kuwa pia sisi tupewe pesa ya kufanya development.
Yeah.
But they know their job is just to oversight, legislate, and just represent the mwananchi. Now they want a budget because there is a demand for them to do certain things that they don't have money for. And you see where we go wrong is when we are doing our campaigns, because we promise people things that hatuna nguvu kisheria kuzifanya. So that is where the rain starts beating us as leaders. With the senator, I love what I'm seeing, because for me, who comes from the advocacy space and having worked with organizations that are trying to, improve on civic education, just to ensure people have understood their civil rights, people have understood their civic responsibilities. There's a lot of gaps still. There are offices that are being given funds to just sensitize people, to tell them ofisi yangu inafaa ifanye hii na hii na hii peke yake. There is a fund, there's an office that is being given 3 million every year to just do sensitization, to tell people kwamba ofisi yetu iko na hii na hii na kazi yetu ni hii na hii na hii.
Which office is that?
There's an office, just do your assignment. It was an office that was created. The office was created as an affirmative in the county government. You still don't know which office.
The office, I know.
Which office?
If it is things to affirmative, I think matters to do with gender.
Yes, the women rep the women representatives office, the woman member of parliament,
exactly.
or rather the woman member of National Assembly.
Yeah.
So there is a budget specifically for sensitization, and it is important. The county governments also have a component where they are supposed to do civic education. Civic education is not just to say watu hawajui governor ni nani, sura yake inakaa vipi. Civic education is for these people to understand kwamba roles za county governor ni hii na functions za county government ni hizi na hizi na hizi. So the senator, there is a lot of pressure because of the nature of our politics. Watu wamezoea siasa ya being given stuffs, being given things, wanafanyiwa harusi, wafanyiwe sijui nini. So when that is not being done, and another thing is, the worst is the handouts. The senator of Mombasa, nobody anywhere can tell you that the senator is not doing his job, because if he tells you, then ask them to provide receipts why then they're saying the senator is not doing his job. But then on the other side, you will provide tangible evidence to show you that the senator is indeed doing his job, because he is ever speaking in the National Assembly, the Senate Assembly. Yeah. And when he speaks, apart from other senators, he's never jumped into conversations, the national conversations that are not affecting the people of Mombasa. And you see, deliberately, the senator speaks in Swahili in the Senate Assembly because he knows his constituents. He is speaking in a language that they will easily understand, so that when I'm talking about masuala ya maji ya Mombasa, mwana Mombasa yule wa kule chini atanielewa mimi bila kutumia zile um, you know, zile terminologies za kizungu. So the senator does his job, and normally wanasema mti mwenye matunda ndo ufanywa nini? Yes, so mimi, I'm happy that people are trying to critique the senator. Merely the jobs of the senators as a whole is to protect devolution, to ensure that money comes to the counties in time, to ensure that allocations are made reasonable enough vis-a-vis the current needs. And that's why you see currently the budget increased to 415 billion. So you see, that tells you that senators are doing their job, and our senator does his job. Trust you me, we who are in the office know how proactive the senator is. He's one guy who can call you in the midnight and tells you, Kesho Hassan, niko na I'll be speaking in the house. I wanted to know what is the status of Mombasa water. What was the date, the first fire ilifanyika lini, the second fire ikafanyika nini, and what are the reasons why we are having these fires. Why is Mombasa water under receivership? Why is Mombasa water having this amount of pending bills, yet the county government says they had already offset the bills that were accumulated from Mombasa water? Why is Coast Water Development Agency in debt with Mombasa water, yet the county government says they are not in debt with? Why is the Baricho Dam not yet complete? So senator is somebody who understands his role, and mti mwenye matunda ndo upurwa mawe. And I don't know why, because leo nimefika ofisini watu wamejaa. I've never gone to the office of the governor nikapata watu wamejaa, wamekaa ati wako kwa waiting bay wanangoja kumuona governor, wako na matanga ama wako na nini. Ofisi yetu mpaka maji zetu mnaziona kwenye harusi, kwenye matanga. The senator pays even bills. Those are things he does because he's a Muslim. Ni khairat zake. Sometimes we don't go all out talking about them, because anasema mkono wa kulia ukifanya wa kushoto usijue. But in politics watu wanataka kujua ulimsaidia Mwaikwasi, umemfanya hivi, please tell us, because if you don't tell us, then we now say hafanyi kazi. There is the constitutional mandate, but then there is the representation aspect where people want you to be there, and senator has always been there. This pressure is just because, you know, ofisi yenye inafanya kazi, kila mtu atataka kuja kwa hiyo ofisi. Mwaikwasi, the reason why mimi nimekuja kwa Mwaikwasi podcast is because of the good job you are doing. So I will really want to also be coming hapa because it's a good space that is allowing us to also talk about issues. So if that Senate office was not doing its job, then people will not be throwing stones at it. The reason why they are throwing stones is to create a space for other people who also want to come and enjoy the privileges. You understand?
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
I get it.
So trust you me,
kama
haujaoa mwanamke mzuri, ama kama hauna mtoto wa kisichana mzuri yule ameumbika umeelewa, men will not come for your spouse. But the moment you see wanaume wanafisia mtoto wako, ujue si ni hivyo, ujue mtoto mashallah, si ndio? Yeah, so that is merely how I look at it. But people should understand kwamba the senator has understood his constitutional role. He is somebody who has been there. He contested way back in akisimama MP. He has knowledge, a deeper understanding of what are the core issues that the people of Mombasa need, so that even when he ventilates on issues in the assembly, he's not talking about them without knowledge. And like I said, he does a lot of research. He calls so that before he goes to parliament, haendi kuzungumza tu, anaenda kuzungumza vitu ambavyo anavielewa. So a lot has senator, si tunasema, I don't know whether the podcast allows me to say 3 term, but senator will do his 3rd term inshallah. And we will ensure people understand why the 3rd term is necessary for the senator as we endeavor to protect devolution. We're not saying other people are not supposed to occupy these offices, but what I'm saying with the information I think I have is that whoever wants to succeed the current office of the senator has to also, master some knowledge, akuwe na information, because I'm seeing people who only want to be in the office but they've not understood what the office is supposed to do. People are just meeting people and taking photos and saying I want to be a senator of Mombasa, but have you heard them talk about the ailments that the people of Mombasa are having? Have you heard any of them put a voice on the issues? Have they even talked about the gaps we are having in development? Have they talked about the performance levels of the county government of Mombasa? Have they? But we have, through our reports. People want us to go on cameras and start saying government. No, sometimes pia we have to protect our home, our house. Lazima tufiche uchi wetu, because we cannot go all out telling other people in other counties kwamba county yetu ya Mombasa inanuka. I saw there's an MP who told the president kwamba Mombasa yetu inanuka, which was not wrong, but it was wrong all the same. Yeah. Sometimes bro, ni vizuri kuficha uchi wako. Sawa, mficha uchi hazai, but the forum also means a lot. And if you have to critique something, then be very objective. And I think for us as an office, we are very objective, and that's why we are doing what we are doing. For the last 2 years, we've been going mashinani. Saizi, there is something we'll be doing for the people of Mvita, just to appreciate the support. And this is something we've been doing. There are a lot of groups. There are a lot of groups that the Senate has been empowering, giving them machines. This is a car wash, giving them VT vya chama, giving them tents and what have you. We've done across the 5 sub-counties. We're yet to do in Mvita this coming month, and you will see it, Mwaikwasi. You'll see what the senator does. Beside or despite the senator not having funds, specifically like those MPs who have CDF, they can squander certain percentages and do developments, ama wapeane handouts, whatever. The senator is doing something that is not within his job description.
Okay, sure. Yes. I wanted to touch about that aspect, but you have already answered. So I'll tell it this way. I was to ask, whatever he's doing is out of his own pockets.
Yes.
Sio? Yeah. But there's been a rise. Sasa ukisikia hizi vitu za empowerment, tunaona kuna timu ya rais inakuja, kina Faruk, kina Weta, Papa Roma, and the team
wanafanya empowerment.
So ni pesa, wao wanajua vile wameipiga katafuna huko juu, afu sasa wanaleta huko chini, and then they use these people. So for the empowerments, is it basically out of yeye mwenyewe ama he's partnering with those people?
Of course, one thing I normally say as a politician, ukifanya event na utumie pesa yako, then wachana na siasa. Ukiwa mwanasiasa na ufanye event yako bila kutumia your own resources, then it says wewe ni mwanasiasa wa kikweli, because unatumia networks zako kupata resources. Naweza nikakupigia Mwaikwasi, bro mimi naenda studio sina shati, bro mimi naenda nampigia Siza hapa sina viatu, akaniplug na mahali nikapata kiatu, nikwambie kesho mimi bana naenda Majuu bro, nataka change my wardrobe kidogo niende huko nipige luku fresh. But then I get these stuffs without using my own money. Then it says so much about my social life. It says so much about my reach, my network. Your network is your net worth. So the senator, of course, a bigger chunk ni pesa yake, but pia you also allow other people to come wakushike mkono, to partner with you, to also be able to contribute to the community. Ni kama is creating an avenue for other people to also give back to the community. There are those who don't want to be known kwamba amepeana, but sometimes pia hawapati opportunity kujua nani ako needful. So when you do such programs, you also allow Mwaikwasi toe kama viti 100, mimi nitoe tent nini, then you bring them together. Just like people in business, sometimes people come together, they amalgamate resources and come up with a very strong company. So that is what the senator also does, but a bigger chunk is his money. In that office, on a daily basis, people get help pale. Ni vile tu binadamu pia ni mkosa fadhila, but the office does what it should not be doing, but it's for the sake of the people, because you are a representative. So sometimes lazima uwe na wao wakati wa raha, wakati wa dhiki, so that they also see you as a leader.
Exactly, sure. Now let's talk about 2027 ndugu. As we head mbele. Nasimama ama tetesi, are the rumors true?
nishakalia kiti.
The rumors true.
Yeah, the rumors are true. Now they are not rumors because they are facts. So mimi nasimama, and I'm really proud, and I take so much pride in saying kwamba I'm contesting for the Changamwe Member of Parliament seat, because one thing is the belief to believe kwamba you've got the impetus, you've got the capacity to lead, you have a deeper understanding of the roles beforehand. That's why I said it's very important to have people who've understood what you are signing up into, so that usifike pale then you start doing contrary to what you told people that you want to do for them. Mine, the journey has been, it didn't start today, it didn't start the day I said I'm contesting. It started when I was young. I've been seeing what has been happening in my community. I know the leaderships that have been there are also doing what they think is right, and they are doing so well. Of course, some of us kusimama sio kuwa kwamba viongozi ambao wako wamefail ama nini. We just want to also continue with what they are doing, but do it in a better way, because things are always changing. We need a new leadership to revamp the strategies, the old strategies, and come up with new ways that can take care of us who are now even having such forums where we can have a conversation. We need to have forums like these even kule mashinani, so that you're not hosting me alone. You can also host somebody from a slum somewhere kuzungumzia uhalisia wa mambo in such a setting, so that you can also elevate their mindset. So I believe that is what the young people are bringing on board, and that young person is me vying for the Member of Parliament of Changamwe. Yeah.
So what's your manifesto, or rather agenda, for the good people of Changamwe?
One thing I've been encouraging my co-aspirants not to get into is to talking about a manifesto, because that is where we also go wrong. You go telling people I will do this, but you've not heard from them. I believe contesting should be done in the format of a public participation. Go and listen to the people kwanza, before then you say I want to do this to you people, because people will ask you, wewe unataka kutufanyia nini? Then you tell them nataka kuwajengea choo. Who told you wako na haja ya kwenda choo? Who told you wako na haja ya kufanya hivi na hivi na hivi? Go and listen to these people. Waambie, mimi when I started, I've been doing a lot of public participation. I'm doing forums where I'm not telling people nataka kufanya hivi. I'm doing forum where I want to hear from them, and then I document. So whatever I'm documenting will now make its way to my manifesto eventually. And then I will say that this is what I heard from the people. And then what can we then prioritize? Hawa watu wa Changamwe wamesema wanataka hii na hii na hii. What can we now prioritize? So for now, I'll tell you, I don't have a manifesto. My manifesto are the real issues, the concerns that the people of Changamwe are having, and the best people to speak about a manifesto is the people of Changamwe, because they are the ones who know what they want, not me who wants to be in the position. I see other aspirants who are coming in and saying the current Member of Parliament has not done this, so I'm going to do this. That is the strategy. It's also the best strategy. But have you gone ahead to hear from them and tell them what has this office not done for you that you would want done in the next regime? So I think for me, it's a very deliberate choice not to go into talking about a manifesto, but listen to the people. Equally, I'm very young, so listening to them also helps me to learn a lot about the dynamics and the diverse issues the people of Changamwe are having. So trust you me, I'm on the race, and my journey is to also just change the mindset of our young people. I see most of us are only running for the MCA position. Yes, there was a time I used to say the MCA should be a preserve of the young people. But I also think contrary, because MCAs are not empowered to be able to take care of the needs of the community. And that's why you see people get into corruption. MCA atataka kufanya project, apate percentage kidogo, apumbaze nayo watu nini. So that's corruption. Yeah. But you see, heading of an office like the MP position, like you said, there's some control over the CDF. like they have a direct say on what goes into the CDF in as much as there is the public participation, but the MP is able to dictate what happens. Even the projects that the carer is doing roads, the MP can say, I want a road in this area, this area, this area. So I believe it's an office that allows you to empower your people directly. It allows you to provide solution to the problems that you see in your community. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All the best in your journey, ndugu.
Thank you so much.
We shall be there to support
Next
you.
time I'll come here as an
As
member
a
of parliament.
member of parliament.
Yes.
Karibu
There'll be a
kiongozi.
lot of attention here.
Attention,
Inshallah,
exactly.
I mean.
And security all over around the place.
Yeah, thank you so much for having
Karibu,
me.
bro.
And to the young people, I can say, don't fear. Let's take up these positions and don't only look forward to be elected as a young person just merely because you are young. Usiombe vijana wenzako kura wakupigie kwa sababu wewe ni kijana. No, you have to be presenting something tangible to the community. I see people contesting, which is good. Young people, my peers are going for positions, but none of them is really talking about the real issues, the real concerns, and why really do we want to go for easy posts. Another challenge as I conclude is once we get into these positions, let's do justice. Let us set the standards. Tusiende tena sisi tukafanya the same things that these people have been doing here and here again, because it will be killing the next generation's future if we go into these positions and do the same things and maybe even worse. So I've always taken it as a challenge to myself that once given this position, I'll really do a lot of justice. I'll set the standards, but again, ni Mwenyezi Mungu atujalie, inshallah. And thank you so much, Mwaikwasi. Such a nice podcast you are having, and I've been following up. You know, I'm your number one fan from the first time you hosted your first guest. I've been following you up, and keep up the good job, and all the best as well.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you for the support.
Cheers.
And thank you for always supporting me.
Cheers.
Then kama kuna post nishaiweka ukashindwa kuinteract, which I highly appreciate.
Shukran.
Okay, to our viewers, thank you for tuning in to this episode where we discuss the issue of public funds, budgeting, issues of policy, and matters of oversight at large. This is the Mwaikwasi Mic, the biggest political show at the Kenyan coast, and I'm your host, Anthony Mwaikwasi. In case you're yet to subscribe. This is the home of political conversations. Asanteni sana, and see you in the next episode. Shukran.